Hello, viewers. Hello, everyone, friends everywhere, all over Alberta, all over Canada, all over the world. Welcome to Honey Walia Shows. I'm your host, Sonal Fool. As we talked earlier, too, we always bring the expertise from different areas who come and share the knowledge with us, their experience, and what they are doing, how they are contributing the community, Albertan economy, or make Canada better. Today we have Nate Gulbish with us. He is a Minister of Service in Alberta. He was sworn in as a minister on April 13, 2019, and prior to becoming a minister, he has a 15 years of vast experience in venture capital investor. He is a father, husband, and he has also volunteered in different aspects or areas, including the condominium board. So when we are going to talk to him today, we are going to talk or take his expertise and knowledge about Bill 53, knowledge about the technology, how it plays in good and bad, updates on the government, including the vaccination. Welcome, Nate.
Thanks for having me, Sunny. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Nate, as we talk about, you are a Minister of Service and you have a vast experience in technology. Technology has a good and bad, and now become in current situation being a pandemic, we are more dependent on electronics and technology. And when technology has a benefit, it makes us vulnerable, the fraudulent people can exploit us. What's your thoughts on it, how to protect ourselves?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sunny, and you're right. As technology continues to evolve, and as more and more Albertans make use of technology in every aspect of their lives, on the one hand, there's a ton of additional convenience that comes from that, allowing folks to have more choice in how they interact with services from governments to banks to other businesses, whatever it may be. But on the other hand, there is a risk, and we would call that cybersecurity risks. We hear stories of folks these criminals who try to steal your information in order to steal your money, to trick you into giving up information that you shouldn't give. And some of the most important things that Albertans can do to protect themselves is to be aware, be informed, and to be educated about what those risks are. And so actually just last month in March, it was Fraud Prevention Month here in Alberta, and we had a number of resources available that are still available that we were highlighting in that month to ensure that Albertans would have access to the information they need to make good, solid, safe decisions when they are conducting business online. We have some consumer tip sheets available on our website. We have information on how to protect yourself from identity theft. A good place where folks can go to is to follow the Service Alberta Twitter page. And we also have a Consumer Protection Alberta Facebook page, which is really focused on how do we protect Albertans and equip them with what they need to be safe. So I would encourage your viewers to make use of those resources, and also know that if they believe they have been subject to some kind of a fraudulent activity, that we're there to help, to listen, and to hear from them about what they experienced, and to come alongside them to investigate. We have the Consumer Investigation Unit, that's their sole job, is to look into allegations of fraud. And so I would encourage, again, your viewers to make use of that service that Alberta provides.
So Nate, you did mention the Fraud Prevention Month 2021. So to expand that question, I have a question for you. Like now the students, like especially from grade 1 or from kindergarten to grade 12, who have less, especially the elementary school or the young generation, have less knowledge about the electronics or the internet. How we can educate them? Do you have any tips for that? Like as a parent, like you have a 2-year-old too,
right?
And how quickly they go on electronics, how they quickly pick up the phone and start playing it. How we can educate them so they are not passing or they're not getting exposed?
That's a really good question. Fortunately, at this point, as a parent, I haven't had to deal with that yet, but it is on my mind because you know how quickly kids grow up, and as you said, young children are very astute at picking up technology. I look at teenagers these days and how quickly they can pick up these mobile phones and all of the apps on them so much faster than say their parents or grandparents might. And so on the one hand, that's a great opportunity in that they are very talented, and the kinds of tasks that they can complete with these devices is very exciting. But on the other hand, there is the risk of, if you don't understand how these tools work fully, and how this opens you up to the internet and to the rest of the world. There's a safe way to use these tools, and there's an unsafe way to use these tools. And so, as parents, as educators, as role models, wherever that each of us might fall in those kinds of categories, it's so important that we train the youth in our circles of influence in our lives to recognize both the opportunities of technology, but also the risks, so that they can make good informed decisions about how they use these tools, the different apps on these devices. It's super important for them to protect their identity online and to be careful who they're speaking with, and to know that there are some things you should never share online, such as your financial information. By ensuring that we give the young folks in our lives some good advice early on, we can help make sure that they don't stumble unnecessarily in using these tools.
No, I 100% agree. Like you have two, I have a 10. And then he is more smarter than on electronics than me. And he is so smart, like he knows how his Google can do his homework. And how the computer can, he can speak and type everything what he is speaking. He was showing me, so that's, imagine. That's why I was always tell, you're going on Xbox and everything. And I have started teaching too. So Prevention Month really helped us out to teach him and get the information. Nate, to further to our conversation, you have served in a board member as a condominium board. You have been a owner of apartment. So you have seen the struggle, especially in pandemic and before too, how both side works, right? And then how the conflict of work is there, like communication, accountability, all those issues comes in. And thanks a lot, to bring the Bill 53 in this particular time. So owners can vote online, because that did not existed in bylaws before, because we never had that thing. So when now Bill 53 is implemented or is enforced, how you're implementing and how the RECA or insurance companies are treating this, or how they're helping you to enforce this bill?
Sure, great. Yeah, so as someone who used to sit on my condo board as a volunteer to help oversee the operation and governance of my condo building where my wife and I used to live in Sherwood Park, I can certainly relate to why this bill was so important. In the context of a pandemic, we had public health restrictions that would prevent a condo board from being able to hold a meeting and to conduct its business. But on the other hand, we have legislation that requires the condo boards to meet annually to conduct their annual general meeting, to elect their board of directors, and to conduct other business that's necessary every year. And so you're not allowed to meet because of public health guidelines, but you have to meet to be compliant with legislation. That was a real problem, and it was creating a lot of stress for condo owners and residents, as well as their boards that oversee their properties. And so early on in the pandemic, we had passed a ministerial order to permit, for a temporary period, electronic meetings so that those boards could conduct business. But what we found was, as we learned more about the pandemic, and as we realized this was going to take a little bit longer to get to where we need to be with vaccines to open things up, I wanted to give condo boards a permanent tool that was at their disposal so that they could always, if they wanted to, conduct these meetings virtually, and not just have the meetings, but also to handle the votes, and so they could conduct formal business with these modern tools. And that's what Bill 53 does, is it basically says you are able to use these tools. So where the legislation used to say you can't use these tools unless your bylaws explicitly permit it, now we're saying you can use these tools, and in your bylaws, you can stipulate exactly how you want to use these tools. So that was another important factor for me, was to make sure, we know there are thousands and thousands of condo properties all across the province, and it's a choice for hundreds of thousands of Albertans for their homes. I did not want to have to force a one-size-fits-all approach on everybody, because we know that generally speaking does not work. And so I wanted to give as much flexibility with this tool as possible to the individual condo associations and condo residents, so that they can say, what works best for our community? What works best for me and my neighbors and our board? And they can put that into their bylaws to spell this out and make sure that they are able to meet and conduct business. So I'm really excited that we were able to get this this legislation passed here in the spring session, and I think it's going to really help to give condo residents and their boards a whole lot more convenience and choice as they're choosing how to govern their affairs.
Well, I 100% agree, Nate, with you. It's not only the annual general meeting, even special assessments meeting or special request meeting, which the owners have called to ask the questions to the management company. It's really a great tool and great help to the owners also. So thanks a lot on behalf of all the condominium owners and the people who have invested the money there. So now we are totally in a different, last 2 years has been totally different for economy, also for the people, for the industry, for Alberta, for Canada, for the whole world. So how the government, or as a ministry, you are ensuring the construction industry especially, or the oil industry, so to keep the jobs on?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. The construction industry, as we know, is a significant part of Alberta's economy. Roughly 1 in 10 Albertans works in the construction industry. And so, maybe folks might not naturally think that, they might be wondering, what does Service Alberta have to do with the construction industry? And that's a good question. But among the many pieces of legislation that I'm responsible for is the Builders Lien Act, which historically was used to support construction companies who had not been paid for work they had completed. And it stipulated what are the tools they can use to try and protect their interests. What I heard loud and clear since the beginning of my term as minister was that legislation was not working, and that there was a problem all across the country of construction companies not getting paid in a timely manner for work that they had completed. And what they call this is prompt payment. So the construction industry had been calling on the government of Alberta for many, many years to implement a prompt payment system to essentially make very clear what are the rules, and to make sure that everyone plays by the same rules, so that if you are working in the construction industry and you knew that you had completed the job that you were hired to do, you knew you were going to get paid in a reasonable time, a reasonably timely manner. And so I set out quickly to work with the construction industry, with trade associations from all across the province, construction companies big and small, to say, okay, if we're going to try and tackle this problem, let's make sure we work together so that the solution we develop reflects your needs and your priorities, and that it reflects the actual challenges that you're facing on the ground as experts who live in the construction industry and work in the construction industry every day. And so I worked really closely with the industry for almost a year. And then we brought forward legislation last fall to implement a prompt payment system. And so, to your original question, what is this going to do to support jobs and to support the construction industry in Alberta? Well, at the end of the day, what it means is that folks are going to get paid on time. And so they're not going to get stuck with, the company that they did a job for saying, well, I can't afford to pay you right now because someone else didn't pay me, so I won't pay you. And then stretching that time out, not just weeks, but into months, and sometimes into 5-6 months long with no payment. You can imagine what that does to a small company, that maybe has 5, 10, 20 employees. If they're not getting paid on a $1 million job that they just finished, then they can't pay their employees, and all of a sudden they might have to lay people off, or they might not be able to bid on another job because they're scrambling just to stay alive and they don't have the resources to start a new project. So now that we can ensure that everyone will get paid in a timely manner, right from the project developer and owner all the way through to the general contractor, to the subcontractors, all the way to the last person on the job site, everyone will get paid in a timely manner. And where there is a dispute, we have very clear dispute resolution parameters. So this will ensure that the money is going to flow through the construction industry in a much more smooth fashion, which will allow these companies to grow, to bid on new work, to create more jobs, to avoid having to lay people off. So for an industry that represents 1 in 10 Alberta workers, to take those steps to strengthen the industry was so critically important, especially in light of the pandemic and the economic challenges that Alberta faces. Alberta will be stronger when we have a strong construction industry. I firmly believe that.
I 100% agree with you. Nate, I'm a safety person and safety consultant, safety behavior, and I totally believe in the behavior safety. And when you are economically sound and you will receive the payment on time, your stress level goes down. And once your stress level goes down, your mental health is good. You're working as a team, you're more concentrating on the job, on the task, procedures, policies, and the rate of not only your productivity goes up, it decrease the incidents and near misses too. Because you are more focused, and then you can more focus on your family, your well-being. So that it makes the whole society prosperous because your mental health is good, you're economically sound. Now we are talking about the pandemic, we are talking about construction, we are talking about the trade people. Recently, the federal budget has come out. And now if we talk in politics, all three works together like municipal, federal, and provincial. How federal budget is going to affect our job market, is going to help to improve, or what your thoughts are on it?
Sure. Well, that's a big question, and maybe bigger than what we have time for today, but I'll try and touch on it a little bit, Sunny, because it's a good question. As you know, the federal budget has just recently come out, and it's a huge document. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages. And so, of course, we are, excuse me. So as you know, the federal government recently released their budget. It's an extremely long document, hundreds of pages long. And we at the provincial government are continuing to review that document to make sure we fully understand how that will impact Alberta. One area that I was excited to see in there was that the federal government had committed an additional $1 billion to their Universal Broadband Fund, which is a fund designed to try and provide resources to encourage the investment in expanding high-speed connectivity infrastructure in rural and remote and Indigenous communities across Canada. And, in Alberta, we certainly have a significant need for that kind of connectivity infrastructure expansion. We have a number of Alberta households. In fact, it's over 200,000 Alberta households that are either unserved or underserved in terms of their connectivity access. So this is a large challenge for us to overcome. It will require collaboration across all levels of government, as you mentioned earlier. But it is encouraging to see the federal government increasing some funding there. I've been working closely with Minister Monsef in Ottawa on, what is a way for Alberta and Ottawa to collaborate to meet the needs of rural and remote communities in Alberta. I've been really encouraged with those discussions, and Minister Monsef has been very helpful in connecting my team with her team to work through a lot of the details on how can we work together to make the best decisions possible to increase access to connectivity in Alberta. I do believe that this additional $1 billion in the federal budget will make a difference in Alberta connectivity infrastructure. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the federal government to ensure that we have the best plan forward. So stay tuned for more on that in the weeks and months to come.
Thank you,
And,
Nate.
oh, and I guess I would just say, to tie that back to your comment about jobs in Alberta, we know that in the modern economy, that connectivity is so important for any kind of business, and certainly to grow a business. And so being able to deploy these resources from the Universal Broadband Fund to the regions of the province that need connectivity the most, I believe is going to go a long way to encouraging job creation and economic activity in every corner of the province, including rural and remote communities.
You know, we are talking about pandemic, we are talking about the budget, we are talking about the job, how they connect each other. And then it also connects with the restrictions we have from Alberta Health Services now, not for our betterment, because for our protections. And do you want to give us an update on the COVID vaccine or from the government process?
Yeah, sure. So, good points, right? We're talking about what are the things that can help us to create jobs and grow the economy, and contrasting that with the challenges that the pandemic has presented to Alberta, as well as to every jurisdiction around the world. One of the fastest ways that we can get back to normal, that we can get the economy back open, that we can reduce the public health restrictions, is for us to have reached a critical mass of vaccinations. And so at this point, I'm pleased to share that we have just over 1.4 million doses of the COVID vaccines have been administered to Albertans so far. And roughly, out of those, roughly 274,000 Albertans have now received their 2 doses. So they're fully vaccinated now. Of course, there's a long way to get everyone fully vaccinated, but as quickly as the federal government is getting us the doses, we are sparing no expense to ensure that we get these vaccines in the arms of Albertans. And so we've partnered with pharmacies all across the province. We've set up walk-in clinics. There's so many ways in which Albertans can get access to the vaccines. And I would encourage anyone who is currently eligible to please go and get your vaccine as soon as possible, because the faster we get everyone vaccinated, the sooner we can get the economy back open and back to normal. I will just share a bit of an update. Is I know I believe it was just today that the eligibility has expanded to include children aged 12 to 15 who have underlying health conditions. So I would encourage any parents or guardians of those children to have a conversation with your health professional and to investigate that. And that's just one more example of us doing everything we can to ensure that the Albertans who need it most are able to get access to those vaccines as soon as possible. And as soon as the federal government can get us more vaccines, we'll be ramping up even faster.
I 100% agree with you. To protect the present and future, we have to know not only the technology, we have to prepare the children how to stay secure, not to share the information which they are not supposed to. We have to educate them, we have to prepare them, we have to mentor them. And on the same token, we also have to teach them how to follow the restrictions, how to follow the guidelines of Alberta Health Services, and encourage everyone to go and get the vaccination so we can move forward, we can go out and enjoy,
Mhm.
right? Like as we were talking about your son's second birthday, if everything goes well, we will be able to celebrate.
Well, it's a really good point, Sunny, right? I mean, human beings, we are social creatures. We thrive in a social environment. We thrive when we can be with friends, be in community, to celebrate with one another. And that has been probably one of the greater challenges and sacrifices we've all had to make in this pandemic time. And I want to thank all Albertans who have made those sacrifices to help keep their families safe and to keep our community safe. But thankfully, there is some hope on the horizon here. And as we get more access to more doses of the vaccines, as we are able to get those vaccines into the arms of more and more Albertans, we get that many steps closer to going back to the normal way of life that we all prefer, of course. And I certainly am excited to see that become a reality. And so I would just, again, encourage all of your viewers, when your time comes, when you and your family are eligible, I strongly encourage you, please get the vaccine so that we can keep our community safe and take that important step forward towards reopening of the economy.
I agree with you. When give you a personal experience, whenever I was, down or stressed, like when you were growing, got married, everything, situations, in life or family or, around you, it happens. My mother always used to say, every dark night has a bright morning.
Mm.
So, we are seeing the light and in the end of the tunnel now, being vaccination being here. Nate, what message would you like to give to our viewers?
Well, just in closing, I guess I would just reiterate how yeah, that I understand how challenging the pandemic has been for all the families across Alberta. This has not been an easy time, but I want to say thank you to everyone who has been diligent in following the public health guidelines to keep their families safe and to keep our community safe, and to help ensure that our healthcare system does not become overwhelmed. And I just, again, want to encourage people, there is hope on the horizon here. As we get farther along in the vaccine rollout, as we get more doses from Ottawa, we will do everything we can to get those into the arms of Albertans as quickly as possible. And I just want to encourage everyone to make use of that when you become eligible. That ultimately will be the fastest path forward to getting things back to normal. And I think we all can look forward to that becoming a reality. Maybe one other thing I would just like to point out and highlight is, I know last week was Volunteer Week across Alberta. And I know there are so many Albertans who volunteer of their time, who donate their money and their resources to supporting some really great causes to help those in need. Especially in light of the pandemic, I know there are so many volunteer organizations who are trying to help support those folks who need an extra helping hand because of the conditions of the pandemic. And so I know that was last week, but I just wanted to give a shout out and a big thank you to all of your viewers who have volunteered of their time to make our communities a better place.
Thank you, Nate. I really appreciate for taking a time for us, for our viewers, from your busy schedule and coming and giving a update on what is happening, what your ministry is doing, what government is doing. I'm encouraging everyone to go on the Service Alberta's website if you need more information on how to prevent the fraudulent, how to protect yourself and your children on vulnerables from the technology. Like the people out there who can misuse it, better to be safe than sorry. And thank you, Nate, for giving your prospects on a volunteer also, because I know you cannot run a country or a society
Mhm.
without the volunteers. Like as a parent, in the olden days, we used to say, to raise a child, you need not only the parents, you need the whole community.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot, Nate, for taking a time out. You are watching Honey Walia Show. I'm your host, Sonal Full. Good day, everyone. Till we meet again, have a wonderful, safe, keep wearing masks for your safety and everyone's safety.